Welcome to the UBC JD MBA session, group advising and information session. We're glad that you're taking the time out of your day to join us today. Before we begin, I would like to take this moment to just acknowledge that we're broadcasting today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. As a guest on this land, it is an honor to live and learn on these lands. What I've just done here is a land acknowledgement, and during your time at UBC campus, you'll often hear and read that UBC, or as a department or unit or faculty, is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And the reason why we precede university events with these words, we intentionally recognize that our presence here is not a right or even a privilege. It is the result of many, many years of wrongful treatment of the legitimate owners of the land. And while we cannot change history, we can recognize that this is Musqueam territory and ensure that those connections are honored and do not appear to be just a formality. So it's important that this recognition of Musqueam territory and our relationship with the Musqueam people do not appear to be another formality. And as you begin your journey here at UBC, we encourage you to take some time to learn about the history of this land and to honor the original inhabitants. And also, a quick note that this event will be recorded, and this recording may be used in various marketing pieces by UBC Sauder School of Business, including print and online. In addition, this event is in a Zoom meeting mode, so please ensure that your audio is muted unless you have a question. And also, please feel free to turn on your camera so that we can see your lovely faces. And if you do have a question, you could always type your question in the chat box, or you could also use the raise hand feature here in the reactions section too. A quick overview of what we will be covering. We'll be doing a round of introductions of the people who are here in the room, and then we'll be talking about the JD MBA program. We'll have some questions along the way, and then we'll wrap up. In the room today, you will find Gareth, who's from the Peter Allard Law School, myself, here representing the UBC Sauder School of Business, Takara, who is our current student in both the law and MBA program, and as well as Tamara and Bernice, who are here to support you with questions as well. And they are the magicians behind the scenes, making sure that you are able to attend the session here today. I would like to take this opportunity to give Gareth and Takara a quick time and moment to introduce themselves. So sorry about that, Gareth and Takara.
It's okay. Hey, I'm Gareth Coughlin. I am Manager Enrollment Services for the Allard School of Law. I've been working for the law school since around 2007, so I have a lot of kind of institutional knowledge about the program. So if you have any questions about admissions, any advice at all, feel free to reach out to me. I wear many hats in the admissions department, and there's a lot of things I can help with. So thank you.
Hi, excuse my voice. I lost it last week. I'm still recovering. Takara, I'm in my third year of the 4-year JD MBA program. I actually originally was not intending to do an MBA. I was kind of going between JD and MBA, decided on the JD program. And then the opportunity presented itself to also do the MBA, so do the dual program when I was in my first year at Allard. And I jumped at the opportunity. It was a great chance to kind of be able to do both of the aspects that I was looking and interested in. My undergraduate experience was business and finance, and I wanted to do the MBA to gather more of the managerial skills to bring into my legal practice. So it's kind of been a step-by-step journey to get me here, but happy to answer any questions about the program, my experience with it. I'll be sharing a little bit throughout the presentation, but also feel free to ask me anything at the end as well.
Thank you, Gareth and Takara. So our program is a dual degree program, which is a fusion of two prestigious career-propelling disciplines. And it's administered jointly by UBC Sauder, School of Business Robert H. Lee Graduate School, as well as the Peter Allard Law School. And it's a launchpad for infinite opportunities for you in law and business. And this dual degree program can be completed in just 4 years. You'll find that our candidates come from a variety of academic backgrounds, including arts and humanities, business administration or commerce, science, engineering. We've seen students coming in from, say, kinesiology. We've seen students coming in from business as well. So you'll see a variety of students in the JD MBA program. Both UBC Sauder as well as the Allard Law School are highly regarded in Canada as well as abroad. You'll find that we're the top programs in Canada, as well as if you look at UBC as a whole, we are ranked as the 35th university for teaching and research, and we're one of the 3 Canadian universities in the top 50 universities in the world. So you know that you will be getting quality education and a great education experience by coming to UBC for your program. And with this, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Gareth to share a little bit more about the Peter A. Allard School of Law.
Thank you very much, Jessica. So yeah, I'll just talk briefly about the law side of the program. So when you apply for the JD MBA combined degree, the idea is that you're essentially applying to each program separately, but kind of indicating on the application that you're interested in the dual degree. So each department kind of handles its own kind of admissions procedures. But if you're admitted to both programs, you have the option of doing the dual degree. So on the Allard side of things, we're a great school. We have innovative faculty who have gained international recognition for their contributions. And we have a very supportive environment. So we have a lot of great staff and faculty who offer mentoring, advising, lots of clubs and student-led events that you can get involved with. And one thing I think that kind of sets us apart from a lot of other law schools is that we have an embedded well-being counselor. So somebody who's kind of in the student services area with their own office who you can talk to and who does like different kind of well-being sessions throughout the year. And it's just really good to have that support when you're going through law school. We also have a very strong experiential learning program that includes clinics, externships, and mooting. So just to briefly explain these things, with the clinics, we have what we call our Law Student Legal Advice Program. And the idea there is that you, as one of our students, can give free legal advice to people who need it. And these are like real people with real problems. And it's just a good kind of hands-on opportunity to get more experience before you graduate. We have externships. Like a good example is our judicial externship, where you can like go to the courts and learn from a judge. And a mooting program. For those of you who don't know, mooting is kind of like a mock trial setting, almost like a public speaking exercise. And there's like competitive moots that you can do where you basically kind of compete against other law schools. We also have a dedicated career services office, and they do all sorts of things. They host recruiting events. They can do one-on-one advising. They can do kind of mock interviews. They'll invite firms to come and interview our students for jobs. They do wine and cheese events. So they can basically help you to essentially get a job before you graduate. One of the big things that a lot of students have to do after they graduate law school is go through what we call the articling process, which is like, it's basically a 1-year process where you're basically meeting the requirements to practice law, essentially. And a big part of that is getting an articling position at a firm. So our career services department will help you do that. And we have identified strengths in things like business law, environmental and natural resource law, law and social justice, Indigenous legal studies, feminist legal studies, and Asian legal studies. And those first 3 there, the business, environmental law, and the social justice, we actually have specializations in those. Oh, and also, sorry, Aboriginal legal studies. So in law school, you don't necessarily, it's not like undergrad where you choose like a major and a minor, but you have the option of choosing a specialization if you really want to hone in on a particular area of law. And the application process is basically kind of like a 3-way weighting system. So there's 3 major components to the application under the general category. There's the personal statement, your undergraduate GPA, and your LSAT score. So for the personal statement, essentially we ask you 3 questions on the application. You get around 500 to 400 words to answer each question, and that's your opportunity to present more information. So that's the more kind of holistic section of the application process. For the undergraduate GPA, we look at your entire degree, so basically your cumulative GPA, but we do some exclusions when we're evaluating it. So 12 worst credits, which for most people works out to 4 worst courses, get removed from our consideration. And the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Test. So it's basically like an aptitude exam. The average score of our accepted applicants is around a 165. But basically, if you take it multiple times, we'll just use your highest score. So we do kind of allow for people to take it multiple times and take multiple attempts. LSAC does limit you to taking it 3 times per testing year or 5 attempts for every 5 years, but otherwise you're free to take it as many times as you want. And like I said, we'll just use your best score. Now our application deadline is December 1st, but we will consider the January sitting of the LSATs. So if you're applying for entry into September 2023, you can actually take the LSAT in January 2023. So applications open up on September 15th, so they're actually open right now. Our application and document deadline is December 1st. But as I said, you are able to take the January sitting of the LSAT if you want. And we start offers as early as December. And we kind of do a rolling admission system where offers kind of continue out from there and we sort of send them throughout the year. So I wanted to kind of bring it over to Kara for a moment and just ask you to maybe kind of talk about what kind of attracted you to Allard Law and why you chose to kind of apply to our school.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to the whole process of deciding to apply, where to apply, and the process itself. First off, I started off by doing a ton of research. So you're here, that's a great step. Finding out where you want to be and why you want to be there. For me personally, I knew I wanted to practice in Vancouver, and so I wanted to be in Vancouver. It's a really good signal to law firms that that's where you want to be. Not to say that it's necessary. It's just another step that you kind of need to communicate going forward when you're looking into your career. For me, for Allard as well, the experiential learning is massive. It has one of the best experiential learning offerings in the country. And I know we talked about the judicial internship, but specifically on the business side, there's also there's a business clinic, and then there's also a corporate externship. So you actually go and work with companies or with firms, which gives you a great experience within the legal context before you actually get into your career. So as a student, and that was a really big draw for me. And I mean, it's a great school. You can't get around that. That was, of course, a consideration as well. You want to pick some place where you're going to succeed, and I felt that I would here. And then in terms of the application process, like Garrett said, you can do the LSAT more than once, and I would encourage that if you're not happy with your first score. I wrote it twice. It's a really intense exam, and it's okay if you need to do it more than once. So I would just add to that aspect as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that on their first attempt, it's almost like this psychological thing where they don't do as well as they could on kind of like the first try, and they often do better on a second attempt. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'll pass it back to Jessica.
Thank you, Garrett, and thank you to Kara. Okay, so for the next slide, I'm going to share with you what your years would look like within the 4 years of the JD MBA program. You'll start off year 1 in the JD program, and Garrett, at any point, also please feel free to add in too. So year 1, you're focusing on the law program. And then during the very last week of August, this is where we have our MBA opening week, where it's a great opportunity for you to connect with your cohort and also connect with faculty and staff members for the MBA program. And then starting in year 2, you're going to be focusing on some business foundation courses. You'll be doing integrated case days. So for example, with this year in November, we are doing a case study with Lululemon, which is a pretty cool experience too. Or you could be doing consulting projects. And what's cool about year 2 is the fact that at the end of the year, you'll be able to do a summer experience internship or entrepreneurial project or an industry project too. And this is also the time for you to consider to apply for summer articling position for the law school. But going back to the MBA summer experience part, Takara, I'm going to ask you if you are able to share about your own experience doing your MBA internship, that would be great.
Yeah, I also just wanted to add, I think that how the program is structured is really fantastic because you get to take your experience and knowledge from your first year of law into the MBA, which provides a different lens to what you're learning. But particularly taking the MBA forward into your business law courses and into your upper year law courses, I'm already seeing a lot of value and it's been really helpful. So I just wanted to speak to that quickly as well. There's an asset in that part of it as well. I did my internship this summer actually at Sauder with the Chinook Center, which is the Indigenous Business Education Center. I had a wonderful time there. I learned a lot. It was really neat. I actually got to teach. So it was an interesting experience actually taking my knowledge and then passing it along to other people. I also found that it gave me a lot of confidence in the interviewing process and in going out and searching for jobs and putting myself forward. So even before getting to internship, that was really an asset and an experience that I think has really served me well with the summer articling search. So kind of a duality there. The internship itself was really interesting, but also the experience getting the internship really helpful.
How did you find the transition from year one, where you were focusing on law, to year two, where you shifted to the MBA program?
So my biggest piece of advice would be, don't think it's going to be easy. You think you've done first year law and you've got it under your belt. It is it's a challenging program. And go into it expecting it to be challenging. And in doing so, you're going to learn as much as you possibly can. There's so much knowledge that's given to you so quickly, but I wouldn't change the experience for anything, because it was a challenge. But I think if I had gone into that with that expectation, it would have been a little bit easier. But you get it you get into your stride fairly quickly. I think that how the MBA is structured, the profs are really good at understanding that first little bit. It's kind of a gradual pace, and the courses that you're given at different points in time sort of build your expertise as you go through the program, so that it isn't as overwhelming as it might be otherwise.
Thank you for sharing your tips for the transition as well. I'd also like to bring all your attention to the top, where you can see career and professional development happening all the way from year one, as well as year two. And this continues throughout the whole entire program. I'm going to move to year three and year four too. So while you're in the program, as well as even after you graduate, I know Gareth had spoken about career services that are offered. So you will receive career development programming throughout your whole entire duration. And even after you graduate, you're able to go back and speak to our career strategies as well. But looking at year three, you're going to find that you're going to be doing some MBA courses and also some law courses. And then in year four, you're going to finish the remaining of your MBA courses and focus on upper year law courses too. And so, Takara, now that you're in your final year of the MBA program, what are some of the different learning outcomes that you have gained from the program that you would see yourself bringing back to the law program?
First off is just your organization ability and ability to gather and understand and organize information that's being provided to you greatly exceeds what I was doing at first year law. So I gained a lot of experience there. I also think that it's largely the business expertise and the business lens that you're bringing into your courses, especially if you're looking at doing corporate law and you are taking a lot of business oriented courses. The language, what's actually happening. For example, right now I'm taking tax law, and I can actually appreciate a little bit better the nuances of what the Tax Act is doing and why it's doing it, and also potentially be a little bit more critical of the courts and the cases that we're looking at, because I'm seeing them from potentially a different lens than I would have without having the MBA. So I think in terms of that, it's been really helpful.
Now, continuing on with the MBA program, we also do offer career tracks that students are able to focus in if they are interested. And the career tracks are in finance, product and service management, innovation and entrepreneurship, technology and analytics leadership, as well as the ability to customize your own track. Takara, did you choose a career track or did you pursue a more general MBA?
I started doing the finance track, but because my undergraduate's actually in finance, I decided to take myself out of it because I'd already taken some of the course material and I didn't want to repeat. And so I've been doing custom just because given my own personal background, I wanted to take more strategy courses, just because it's a large picture concept that I hadn't really explored as much. But I've had friends in every single one of the tracks and also the custom. And I mean, in every one of them, there's really interesting courses that you can take. And I think doing the JD MBA, it's less important that you necessarily have to do a track. So if there's just a ton of different classes that you want to try out and get a broad range of expertise, that's just as valuable as doing a track when you're doing the JD MBA. Or if there's a certain area because you're interested in a certain area of law, it's also going to be great because it's going to set you up with a kind of the plethora of knowledge that you might want to have to take into your career.
And so earlier I had mentioned about career development as well. At UBC Sauder, we also offer the Hari B. Varshney Business Career Center, which is a support system for you. And here you're able to get Canadian career development programming, one-on-one career coaching, mentorship programs, and you're also able to tap into our alumni network of over 50,000 alumni all across the world. So before and after graduation, our candidates benefit from the full support of the career services offered at both schools, which means twice the professional development opportunities for you. And our graduates, if you're wondering, where do our graduates go from there? So our JD MBA graduates pursue careers in corporate law or maybe venture capital, or perhaps also in in-house consulting as well. And so I strongly encourage you while you are in the program to utilize the career centers at both of the schools because you're able to benefit greatly, whether it's through networking or whether it's through looking for jobs in a specific field that you're looking at, or whether it's through connecting with alumni to gain knowledge of a certain field, or maybe even a city. If you're thinking of moving to a different city, it's also great to connect with alumni beforehand to gain your knowledge as well. In addition to that, at UBC Sauder, we also offer what we call the Global Network for Advanced Management. And UBC Sauder is the only Canadian member of the Global Network for Advanced Management. And so this program allows you to take a course in one of the universities within the global network, and you'll find that you can take courses in 30 leading business schools from diverse regions, countries, cultures, and economies too. And we also offer what we call the Global Immersion Program, where students are able to head to one of 4 countries abroad to put into practice what they've learned from the classroom in the working world. And through the Global Immersion Experience Program, you will travel abroad to solve real business issues for international organizations. And so, Takara, back to you. Did you take advantage of the GIE or GNAM in the MBA program?
So with the GNAM, it's a little bit tricky with the 2 sets of classes. And because I was going through the recruitment process, I was not able to take advantage of that, unfortunately. However, we did get to do GIE. So unfortunately, COVID kind of hit us again, and we didn't get to go abroad. But we did work on a project with a company. I specifically worked with a company in the US. It's a publicly traded company, and we got a real consulting project from them, which was, I think, one of the most valuable experiences out of the program. We did a couple case studies with real companies in the fall, but this is one-on-one with a team and that company. And you get to really apply what you're learning, but it's also a really wonderful experience to learn about client management, working with real clients. And that experience itself, I think will help me greatly going into whatever career I go into, because you are going through these processes where there's a lot of challenges that you're going to be facing, and you have the support of your professor who's kind of your who's marking you, but also really there just to try and help you succeed. And we talked to him multiple times. He was absolutely great. And that was a huge part of the learning experience. And it was really nice to know that there was support when you're going through that first big project that you're working on with a real client. So yeah, I absolutely love that part of the program, and speak very highly of it for sure.
So when you are in the JD MBA program, do you take advantage of this opportunity too? Like Takara was saying, you get to work with an organization, a business organization, and you get to develop skills as well. And those are skills that would be an additional benefit for you to add to your resume as well, and would put you at a competitive edge when you're applying for jobs after graduation. Moving on to our admission requirements, we have upcoming deadlines if you're interested for the JD MBA program. The next deadline for us is January 10th of 2023, and our final deadline is on May 2nd, 2023. In terms of what we're looking for in candidates, we're looking for a minimum of 2 to 5 years of full-time work experience. Typically, at least 2 years of work experience is what we're looking for, but around, say, 4 years to 5 years would put you at a more competitive edge. We're looking at an academic achievement of around 3.3 out of 4.0 on a GPA scale of 4.0, or if your institution uses a 0 to 100% percentage, we're looking for around 76, 77%, or a B+. And if you're unsure about your requirements based on your degree, perhaps is a degree that was done outside of Canada, you could always connect with us, and we'll be happy to let you know the degree requirements based on your country of the institution. GMAT is required, or GRE. You get to pick whichever one that works best for you. For us, we're looking at a minimum GMAT of 550 or a GRE of 300. But to put you on a more competitive edge, we're looking at a GMAT of 650 or a GRE score of 310. We're also asking for a minimum of 2 references who can speak about your ability and specifically professional ability. We also ask for written and video essays, and if applicable, we do ask for English proficiency tests. And if you do meet our first round of requirements, we'll invite you for an interview held on Zoom with one of our consultants as well. So these are some of the admission requirements that we look for. Takara, back to you. What did you do to prepare for your admission to the MBA program?
So it was a little bit of a sped up process for me and a little unique in my year, I think. I know the schools were really trying to bring in more JD MBA students. And so when I was putting it together, it was really about what I was saying in my written and video essays. That was a big part of what I was focusing on. And also identifying where my weaknesses and strengths were, and really prepping for that interview. Those were the key aspects that I really spent quite a bit of time on. And I think, yeah, it's just about preparing as much as possible. Obviously, if you're looking at law school, eventually you understand standardized testing and the study that goes into that. But outside of that, I do really think it's the preparation for the other aspects for the MBA.
Do you have one tip that you can share with future applicants who are looking to pursue the JD MBA program for admission?
I'd say for admission for the MBA is really highlight who you are as a person and the perspective that you're going to be bringing into the program. And don't be afraid to be yourself when you're doing that.
Thank you for sharing the tip. And I do echo what you said. Don't be afraid to showcase who you are. And a lot of people sometimes also worry about showcasing potential weaknesses. But it is in those weaknesses, if you're able to identify what are some of the ways that you have addressed or work on those weaknesses to show that I recognize, perhaps it was communication skills. And so I've done Toastmasters as a result of that. And here I am today feeling more confidence with my communication skills. If you're able to demonstrate growth, that would also benefit you as part of the application as well. So that self-awareness, emotional intelligence, those are some of the qualities that we're looking for in our applicants. Okay, and then to quickly summarize, here are the values of pursuing the JD MBA program. And a big thanks to you, Takara, for this as well. And I'll let you speak more to this after we go through. First of all, it'll be the diversification of your skills, strengthening your critical thinking, application of your business knowledge, as well as business law courses, and it'll be beneficial for you for your career as well. So when you think about the JD MBA program, it's a degree that will equip you with the tools to understand law from the perspective of a businessman, but also to understand business from the perspective of a lawyer. That's how a lot of our alumni have told us these are some of the benefits as well. And so by gaining the expertise in the angles of law, business, and management, you will be ready to succeed in global economies where the ability to navigate through the complexities of law and business is key. And Takara, please feel free to add to this slide as well.
I've spoken to some of the points already. What I would really say is I've actually just gone through the recruit for summer articling, and it's one of the standouts for me was a lot of law firms really see the value in the dual program, because law is the practice of law, but it's also the business of law. And to be able to appreciate the entire scope of what's going on in a firm or what you're really doing gives you an edge that you may not have without some business education. I think specifically the MBA over potentially an undergrad, it's a whole nother way of thinking that they're teaching you. Whereas an undergrad is more on the core skills. Both law and the MBA teach you two very different ways of thinking and approaching problems and dealing with problems. And so you're going to bring both those knowledge sets into your practice and into your business of law, but you're also going to bring those into your actual practice and how you're going to deal with problems, how you're going to have client relations, and all of those things are going to be what help you in your success in your career in law. And that's looking quite a bit forward. But I will say for the short term and where I'm at right now, I was very fortunate going through the recruitment process, but myself and my other peers who were doing the JD MBA, we all had very, very positive experiences through the recruit and a lot of really good feedback from the lawyers that we were speaking with about the program. So as like a very core concrete example, I can say that it is very helpful in that respect.
Now, I would love to open the floor up to questions that we have. So please feel free, if you would like, you could always raise your hand and unmute yourself to ask your question. Or you could also ask the questions in the chat itself. And I see that we already have a question from Ava asking, if I wanted to attend law school straight out of my undergrad, would that make me not able to apply for the dual program because of the 2+ years of work experience? And for this, I did mention that we do look at a minimum of 2 years of work experience post-graduation for the MBA program. However, we may be able to make exception if you're doing the JD MBA program and applying straight out of undergrad. We may look at perhaps your summer work experience, or if you have internships or co-ops during your undergraduate program, we could also include those as well. So please do connect with us, because we could look and discuss more specifically about your background and how you would fit into the JD MBA program. Does GPA affect when it comes to admissions? Gareth, may I let you go ahead with the law side of things, and then I'll be happy to answer for the MBA side of things.
Sure. So with the law side, yes, it is specifically 1/3 of our considerations. So that's your undergraduate degree we're looking at when you apply. And it is, I'd say, a significant part of the application, but not the only part. So, we try to put the focus on multiple areas. So there's the LSATs, and there's the personal statement, which is kind of gives you room to talk more about yourself and your experiences. But yeah, the GPA is, I'd say, an important part of the application process for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Gareth. And same goes for UBC Sauder. The GPA is also a significant part of your admission, but it's not the only part of your admission. We have seen some candidates who perhaps maybe slightly below the GPA requirement, but they have very high GMAT or GRE scores. And that is also another way for you to demonstrate your academic capabilities too through the GMAT or GRE. So in terms of your GPA grades and where they stand right now, if you're unsure, please feel free to also email us, and we'll be happy to look into your transcript and also let you know what the next steps would be from there.
I don't want to speak totally out of turn here, but because I applied in my first year of law school, my law school grades were considered. And I would have to say I really appreciated in the interview. I was actually asked directly about that. I was about 1% below, and I was able to share some of the personal circumstances that had happened to me in my first year of law. I unfortunately had a really severe concussion, and I really appreciated how understanding and reasonable the program was in relation to that, and being willing to look at the whole picture rather than just the grade. So I just wanted to add that personal experience, very, very positive on that note.
I'm glad to hear that. And yes, we do also allow people the opportunity to explain their academic performance too, because life happens. Right. And so, for example, it could be a concussion, or during COVID, we've had significant students who've had other things coming up in their lives that may have pulled them away from their academics too. And so we do understand that life happens. And so we do give our applicants the opportunity to also explain what may have contributed to their academic performance.
I wanted to add too, that's the same on the law side. So if there's any kind of extenuating circumstances or anything that you want us to know about, we do allow applicants to submit that material. And we will kind of consider it appropriately when looking at your GPA.
Okay, thank you. I see we have another question about international business and entrepreneurship major being suitable for this program. And do we pay more attention to work experience? So for admission wise, for both programs, you'll see that we do have students coming in from a business background to both the law and the MBA program. And also for especially the MBA program, you'll find whether it's a regular Bachelor of Business Administration or Bachelor of Commerce or International Business, we do see significant students coming through that. In terms of whether we put more attention to the background of your academic degree or whether your work experience, I would say they all play a significant part and an equal part, because we use a holistic approach for admission. So we'll look at your work experience plus your academic background. And it's not just about that, but it's how you tie everything together towards your career goals and what you're hoping to gain out of the JD MBA program, and how you're able to use our program, learn from the program, contribute to the program, and reach your career goals. And Gareth, what is it for the law side?
So on the law side of things, I think we deliberately look for kind of like people from a wide variety of backgrounds. So while having something related to the program you're going to study could be an asset, and it could prepare you for, what you're going to be studying, it's not what I call a requirement. So like we accept degrees from all sorts of different backgrounds and disciplines, different majors. We like to have a wide variety of different, people with different educations. So we're mainly just kind of looking at what you chose or how you performed and what you chose to do. So kind of academic performance in general. We want to know how you perform in kind of a university setting. But if you can speak to kind of how what you studied may have prepared you for the study of law, or even kind of how they might have prepared you for being a lawyer and just kind of the practice of law, those are good things to put in your statement as well.
Thank you. And Takara, I'm going to pass you the next question. When do you recommend studying for the LSATs and GMATs? And perhaps you could share some of your experience preparing in terms of the time frame and all.
The more time, the better. It's not necessary. I have friends who studied for a month and just committed themselves to studying for a month and did phenomenally. I personally was taking it while I was still in my undergraduate. So I had intended to write it in the fall, and I probably started studying for the first one that I was going to do about 5 or 6 months ahead of time. I was not intensively studying. I was taking my time. It's a very different way of thinking I know the LSAT specifically. And so the more time you give yourself to wrap your head around some of the concepts, the easier it can be. But I also think it's a personal aspect. I know that I can study myself. So I just got a bunch of the books and I went through them as much as possible. I read up on each of the different sections to understand how to approach each of them. And then I did as many practice exams as possible. And that's really the biggest thing: practice, 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 and going back to the questions, trying them again. If you didn't get them right, thinking about them over. Okay, why didn't I get it right? What's the issue here? And again, in terms of time, I think it's a little bit more personal. What are your goals? When are you trying to apply? And then trying to give yourself as much time as possible. But again, it's not necessary. The other thing is too, is if you really want to apply and you only have a month before the next writing of the LSAT or the next writing of the GRE, study and put the time in it and try it. And then if you need to go back and say, okay, no, I need more time, take a little bit more time and go back to it, which is what I did. I wrote the LSAT twice. That's exactly what I did. I stepped back. Okay, I'm going to rethink about this. I'm going to calm myself down. I'm just going to take a little bit more time. Went back into it, and the second time went great. So I know that's not a very concrete answer, but I think you really need to think about your own learning style and how you think you're going to be best able to approach it. Are you someone that needs to completely focus on it for a month and then do it? Awesome, go and do that. If you're somebody who needs the time to kind of consider things, if you have other things going on for yourself, maybe give yourself more time.
Thank you. And I've heard the same too in terms of the GMAT or GRE preparations. I've heard of people who are like, I took a month and just focused. That was what I focused on. And then they did well. But I've also seen students who are like, I took between 3 to 6 months to prep for the GMAT or GRE test. And so a lot of it does also depend on what's going on in your life and the amount of time you're able to dedicate to it. So what I would recommend is to plan ahead, if possible, on the time that you're able to dedicate to where it's your GMATs or LSATs. And on top of that, if you do retake the test, we'll also consider the higher score of all the tests that you've taken. Gareth?
I actually don't have anything to add. I think it was brilliant, actually. So yeah, I definitely back up everything she said.
Okay, the next question is, does ACCA have a benefit for those programs?
Sorry, I need help with that acronym. Is that an accounting thing?
Can you tell us more about what ACCA?
I just Googled it off screen and I'm seeing
Okay, it looks like accounting, yeah.
Yeah. In which case, I mean, we're always looking for whatever you're bringing to the table. So any qualifications, work experience, anything like that. We deliberately leave room in the personal statement for you to talk about that stuff. And the more stuff you have, the better it's going to look on your application. So while that's not something we specifically ask people to have, like I said, like we like people from a variety of different backgrounds, certainly that could be an asset. Sure.
I'd also say, first off, your MBA cohort will adore you. I know people who I've gone through awesome group of people who have those extra qualifications. I think I would say the same with the program. The more you can bring to it, the better for your success in the program. But it's also really beneficial down the line because it's just another qualification you're bringing into whatever career you're going into and you want to go into. In terms of the business law section, there is a business concentration at Allard that you can do. I'm pretty sure. And you don't have to decide that you're going to do it until your fourth year. You have to hit the right number of courses and then you can apply. So that's kind of an option there. And if you're looking at going into business law, anything to do with accounting, finance, those types of accreditations are going to be really beneficial. I cannot speak to scholarship opportunities, so I will pass that over.
Thank you. And so for ACCA, I'm just going to touch on that for a quick moment. In terms of what you can bring into the program, I echo what Takara was saying. What you're able to contribute to the cohort will be invaluable. But in terms of admission-wise, it's not something that is a key component of our admissions. If you have it, that's awesome. But if you don't feel bad. You can still apply for the MBA program and then use that knowledge and experience to contribute to your cohort once you're in the program. And scholarship opportunities, Gareth, I'll pass it to you to talk about the law side of things.
Sure. So just to make it a little easier, I posted a link in the chat there to our cost and funding page, which has information about the scholarships we offer, the bursary program, and other funding sources, and it kind of breaks down tuition as well. But just to briefly talk about it, yeah, we do offer a number of different scholarships. The way we do it is we break them into kind of two different types. So we have automatic ones that we offer people kind of right off the bat when they're admitted. And there's application-based ones that you can apply for. And we usually send a call out for those in June, kind of in the middle of the application cycle. So at that point, theoretically, we have a full class and everybody has an opportunity to apply for them. But if you're interested, I mean, there's a lot of different awards. There's a full list there that you can look at in the link I posted. And don't discount the UBC bursary program either. It's that's sort of like it's done centrally through UBC, and it's sort of like a needs-based funding opportunity. So essentially, you can basically apply for that, and they'll try to fill any financial gap you have. And our website actually has a bursary calculator specifically designed for law students that you can take a look at. And if you fill that out with your information, it can give you an estimate of how much you might qualify for. And that calculator was created by UBC Enrollment Services. So we found it's fairly accurate. So that's a good resource. So there, I'll pass it off to Jessica.
Thank you, Gareth. And so over at UBC Sauder, yes, we do offer scholarships for the MBA component of your education, and scholarships would go all the way up to $60,000. So if you're looking at applying for scholarships, what we do encourage you is to put in your strongest application, just because our scholarships are awarded at the point of admission. So when we're reviewing your application for admission, we're also considering you for a scholarship itself. Please note that there are specific deadlines for different scholarships as well. And I'm going to post our MBA scholarships here in the chat for you to review. So I strongly encourage you, if you're thinking of applying for admission and being considered for scholarships, to apply by our second deadline, which is the January 10th deadline, just because that's where we'll have still a larger pool of money for scholarships. Our admission is done on a rolling basis. So if you're thinking about, okay, we have this pool of money, and if you apply sooner, you'll be able to tap into a larger pool. Whereas if you apply at the end of the cycle, there may not be as much financial aid support available for scholarships. So check out our scholarships, and if you have any questions, you could also connect with us. And that's a great question about scholarships, by the way. Okay, any last questions? You're most welcome. If not, I have a question for Takara and Gareth. Can you share with us, what is one of your favorite spots for a restaurant or to go grab coffee on campus? Where would you go?
So I'm a fan of Loaf. It's a neat little location kind of nestled between the Nest. That's like the student union building at UBC, for those of you who aren't in Vancouver. And it's between that and the UBC bookstore. So it's in kind of a very central location on University Boulevard. And they have really good coffee there, I think. So that's sort of my go-to.
Also, great thing about Loaf is they've now got a cafe in Sauder. And when I was at Sauder, we did not have a cafe in the building. It was way too much Tim Hortons. So I was very excited when they opened up a second location. And I would also say, oh, there we go. Like the quintessential law cafe is called Great Dane. It's about a 2-minute walk from Allard. And they have, I've never tried them because I'm allergic to gluten, but they've got great sandwiches and phenomenal coffee. So yeah, those two probably top two on campus.
Great Dane is also another favorite of mine. Loaf and Great Dane, that's where you can find me. Yes. So thank you to everyone for joining us here today, and a big thanks to Gareth, Takara, as well as Tamara for being here to support this session. We appreciate you. And for those of you who have any questions, please connect with us. We're here to help and support you in your journey to the JD MBA program.
Yeah, you can feel free to contact me as well. You can find me on LinkedIn if you'd like to as well. That's very happy to connect.
Yeah, and me as well. Anytime you need any advice on the application process or just general information about the law school, feel free to reach out to me. I've just posted my email address in the chat there.
Okay. Thank you very much once again, and I hope that you'll all have a great day.